G'day everyone and welcome to episode number 3 of the Australian Rock Show, Ozrock's loudest and proudest music podcast. My name is Dennis Gray from the Rockin' and Rollin' Gray Brothers. Today is the 28th of January 2015 when this show is being recorded. Last Friday, the 23rd of January, I had the great pleasure of chatting with Paul Woseen from the Screaming Jets. Without a doubt, one of the finest hard rock bands to ever come out of Australia. Paul has been out on the road in support of his solo album, Bombido, which I think really highlights not only Paul's voice, but just how well crafted many of the Screaming Jets songs really are. Anyway, I think you are all going to dig this. Let's get in the mood with some Screaming Jets circa 1991 off that amazing debut record, All for One. Here is Blue Sashes. Okay, it is my great pleasure to welcome Paul Woseen to the Australian Rock Show.
G'day, mate. How you go?
Very well. Firstly, congratulations on 25 years as a Screaming Jet and on the release of your most recent or debut solo album, Bombido.
Thank you, man.
We've kicked off the show with one of my favourite Jets tracks, Blue Sashes. What are your thoughts? That's some years ago now, but what are your thoughts about the recording of that tune in that time period?
I think it still holds up. The way we recorded was the way it was meant to be. It's a track that was co-written by Grant and a fellow Newcastle musician, Greg Bryce, and song we did, and it's a cracking live track. You know, it really makes the crowd thump along. Yeah.
So was that just after you had that in your set in the repertoire before you took out that Triple J had a band competition then, which you won? It had been floating around for a while, or? Yeah,
it's been. It was one of the first tracks that we sort of played prior to recording it. You know, there had a life. You know, it was in the set. I think it was even in the. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on this, but I even think it was in the set of Dave and Grant's previous band, Aspect.
Okay.
You know.
We'll have to. I plan on getting Dave on the show sometime this year, so I'll rack his brain with all that good stuff. But I've seen you a bunch of times over the years. I think the first time I saw you with the Screaming Jets, 1990-ish, at a venue called Banjos in Gladesville, Sydney, where I grew up in that vicinity. And you know, there was such a buzz about the band just starting, and the place was packed, and there was so much energy that night, and it's in one of my top 10 ever live gigs. It was one of those, you know, when you walk in and the force just throws you against the wall. That was one of those nights, and
that's awesome.
Well, you know, it really does stand up there. And there was also a run of shows from memory at Max's in Petersham, but my memory's getting hazy. I could have seen you there, but so you must have, you know, very, very fond memories of that time period of the band starting to really explode around Sydney.
Yeah, It was like, it's a great period. It's like, when I look back at it, it's like, just, we just sort of, you know, we sort of started, and then just sort of, the build was almost immediate, you know, like, we sort of, I don't know if we're lucky or right place or right time or anything, but it's just, and the build was almost immediate from like starting to play outside of Newcastle and starting to play in Sydney and other places. The vibe was just fantastic. The crowds were, you know, there was people there at every show. You know, it seemed like you know, bands that I played in before. We were doing shows, you'd be playing to like no one, you know, and sort of.
Yeah, I think that when the chemistry is right amongst you know, certain rock bands, they just generate this force, and people pick that. You know, the average punter can pick that, and word spreads. But you know, this is a.
Go ahead, sorry.
No, there's a question later. I was just going to list some of the stats. You know, I mean, platinum album, 5 gold albums, 500,000 album sales, 2,000 plus concerts, and that was my question later. Was you know, did the success of the band exceed your expectations in that time period?
Oh, for sure. Like it was a blowout. You know, like we didn't expect it to. I don't think anyone expected it to move so quickly. It's like. You know, it's like from the first release, so we released an EP, and then we released the album, and bang, better hit the charts, and then the album sold, and then people everywhere. It's something we expected. I guess we didn't know what to expect, but we didn't expect it to move so quickly.
Yeah, I think the timing was right as well. The timing here in Australia was just ready for a band like that, and it's like myself. There's just so many great memories. But let's just start. I just want to talk about your new album, which I guess isn't so new now. It's been out for 12 months, but really, really like it. 11 amazing Jets tracks with 2 of your originals stripped down, just an acoustic guitar, and your strong, distinctive vocals. But some of those Jets tunes sound so great acoustically. A great example, tracks like October Grey and Helping Hand. I've got to ask, were they originally written on acoustic guitars?
October Grey was, and Helping Hand I wrote on an old Fender Rhodes piano.
Oh, great. But they just work so well acoustically. But even when I saw the band play those in a live environment, you kind of know that they'd work really well acoustically. You know what I mean?
What was that, mate? Sorry?
Even when you would watch the Jets live electrically or live, you knew that some of those songs would work well acoustically. Yeah,
I think that's the way I look at it. It's like it's not like how I try and write, but it seems like a good song will work in any format. It's around the campfire sort of business. If you're sitting there just with your mates having a beer, strumming a few acoustic guitars, the songs everyone plays are the songs that work like that.
Yeah.
Sure, there's some great songs. That's all right. There's some great songs that I guess don't work acoustically because they need the bomb, all the bells and whistles of a rock band. But mostly, a great song will work just like that.
Yeah. What's the overall response been like for Bombido? Really good.
People have been into it, accepting of it as it. Maybe a little surprised that I sing, that I look like how I look, and I sing how I sing. Yeah. But it's been very positive.
Have you got an overseas and American release for the album yet, or?
No, it's just
okay.
It was sort of it was something that I sort of really didn't know if I was ever going to do it, but with Dave's hen picking, I could say, that sort of forced me to go and actually do one.
Well, one of my favourite songs off the album is the tune "Live to Ride." It has a really nice melody and some powerful lyrics, and I'll just quote a couple which I've read. All my brothers in their colours, whiskey ghosts on Thursday nights, standing drinking like shadows, no one here looking to fight. And I'm going to play that in a moment. It's such a wonderful song. But before we do, Paul, can you tell me the meaning behind "Live to Ride"? It is bikie gang related, isn't it?
It is bike related. It was it sort of stemmed from a night out with a friend of mine, a double bass player and friend of mine called Mick, and a motorcycle enthusiast friend of mine called Straubs, and just sort of out having a drink, and a lot of people seem to think that people who ride bikes and are involved in groups are the instigators of trouble, where a lot of the time, there's bad eggs and everything, but sometimes, on this particular night, it's like so we were targeted because he was wearing a patch, and we just said, so it's not always what people think. Yeah.
Do you ride bikes yourself? I'm a long-time motorcycle enthusiast.
I love bikes. I'm looking to buy my 9-year-old son for his birthday this year a little thumper.
Nice.
Yeah, so because where I live down in Mornington, there's some great dirt tracks, and there's I want to get into that. So it looks like I'll have to get myself an old dirt tracker as well, so I can keep up with him.
There's nothing like it. I think that's a great intro. We're going to play "Live to Ride" right now. Paul Woseen there with the song "Live to Ride." Love that tune. Really, really dig that. And I have read, mate, that the Jets may record that. Is that a rumour, or have the band demoed it?
It's the band hasn't demoed it, but I've put it to the band. They're into it, so we're looking to go back in the studio sometime in March and record another album. So that's definitely a contender.
Can I ask how you go about your writing process? Do you jot down ideas when they come to you, or do you have a process a formula you work with, or?
No, it's sort of random for me. I'm one of those sort of crazy looking dudes, I guess, that walk around. He's got a little fishing bag everywhere he goes, and in my fishing bag's a book and a pen, packet of smokes, my phone, my sunnies, and sort of I'm writing constantly. So if I have a thought, I write it down. If I might hear somebody else say something, or I might see like a shop's name or something, I hear, and I just write it down, and then I'll either go straight away and that'll either kick me off, and I'll start writing something straight away, or I'll come back to it.
It is curious. Everyone has a different process. I know that John Lennon used to have a notepad next to his, bed, and in middle of the night something had come to him, and he'd jot that down. Otherwise, it would be forgotten. But so I assume you're picking up new fans who may be completely unaware of your history with the Screaming Jets. With the acoustic thing, it's there's some familiar faces turning up, and there's some faces I've never seen before that are great.
Which is really cool.
It is. That's pleasing, isn't it? To have younger people or new faces who are just attracted by the new material, or the acoustic vibe. Yeah, there's like some people I did a run of shows back in last year for this record, and some people that came along and talked to them. It's like they're a bit older, and they say, well, they love the Jet stuff, but the actual live show is a bit raucous for them, so they come to the acoustic show. Can't take the kids. They're all growing up, can't take the kids. That's right, yeah. You also play bass on the new single from Rose Collier called Time Is Now. How did that come about? I've known about the Rogue Sharks for some time, so I know that connection, but such a great track. It is a good track, and she's a great singer, man. Rose is I reckon she's the real deal. She's a lovely person, and she's got a big heart, big voice. She's totally sincere with her performance, and she writes a great tune. And I've actually ended up playing bass on a whole new album. Right. Was that all produced by Mark Opitz? Yeah, it was. It was. Okay, great. And so if all the stars align, when she takes it out to tour, I'll be in a touring band as well. And that's sort of come around because I've known Mick, because he's playing guitar on the record, and it's some great guitar work on that track. It's just blazing. Mick's a great guitar player. He's a what's how to describe it? It's not a one trick, no one shot. He's like he's like a multi-tool guitar. He's the Leatherman of guitar players. You only need one guitar player in the band, and that's Mick, because he covers all aspects from. You don't need another guitar player to back him up. You don't need a second. He does that whole rhythm lead thing, and it's so solid. It's unreal. Well, his band, the Rogue Sharks, have been around. I don't know, more than. Early 90s definitely deserve more recognition than they've received, in my opinion. But yeah, me too. I think it's a sad thing that they haven't, because live they smash it, and maybe it's a geographical position that's held them back, Maybe, but I guess that's one of the purposes of starting this show, my brother and I, we want this podcast to really be a home for pure Australian rock and roll. He and I have the knowledge. We've been into it for a long time, so we want to make it a home to support guys like yourselves and the lineage straight down from AC/DC down. And there's no reason why we can't get it happening, and so we're going to have Mick on the show.
Yeah,
soon.
Just because a band's from Tasmania or regional Australia
shouldn't matter.
Just that's right. They should get the support.
Absolutely.
Not just from the music public, but from media as well.
Absolutely. We're going to do our bit. We're in our opinion, it is the best rock music in the world, and there's no one playing or promoting some of these bands anymore. And just because time's moved on doesn't mean, and we're going to have fun with it. We've got a lot of interviews lined up with people you may not have heard from for a while, and guys who deserve a lot of recognition. And let's drift back a bit. But how did you get into rock and roll?
Me?
What was the first? How did you get into it?
Well, I don't know, just sort of fell into it, really. I taught myself to play guitar when I was in high school, and by the time I was, just before I was 16, or around 16, I started playing, and I had put together this band, and then I sort of went through 1-2 little bands, and then I was about 16 and a half. The band I was in started playing in pubs.
Did you have siblings into rock music, or it's just what you heard, or just mates who are all into? I've
always been I've been involved with music since I was 5. Singing and stuff. That was more of a secular church-based stuff, because I was in the church. Well, you wouldn't know to look at me, but I was the head chorister of Newcastle Christ Church Cathedral for a number of years.
Nice.
Yeah, that was my sort of, that's my musical start, which is totally a different world to rock. But
to where you've been and gone. But so, what was the first record you bought? Sorry to rack your brain early on Friday morning.
The first record I bought with my own money, which I've still got, and it has survived every single party, and it's still in the. I've still got it in the original plastic Sound World sleeve from Newcastle. Was Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap.
Nice.
So I bought that when I was about 7.
All the signs were there, weren't they?
Yeah, but then it's funny because I remember there's a couple of records that I bought that, and then had a couple of Crocus records, and then a Maiden record. They didn't survive all the parties, but then it sort of moved into more of a sort of a, I don't know, power pop punk sort of stage of music, like Birdman, Clash, and Sunny Boys, and then I came back to AC/DC, and a lot and Tattoo, and
I only thought about that punk thing you touched on, because you played with Blakey from the Hard-Ons last night. I saw, and I thought, well, the Jets were definitely not a punk band, but your influences are, Radio Birdman, and we're all influenced by that stuff one way or another, aren't we?
Yeah, well, that was the era that we grew up. Like it's we're all hit puberty and onwards from there in the 80s, and sort of and that was those sort of bands were cracking around the end of the 70s into the beginning of the 80s, when we were all, I guess, really formative in our heads. So
your vocals, such a key ingredient to the Screaming Jets sound. They complement Dave's vocals so well. Did you take singing lessons, and at what point did you realise that, hey, I really can sing quite well. I've got a great voice.
Oh no, as I suggested before, that's I was a choir boy, and that's where I sort of learned to sing, and that was by default. That was by default. Well, I was asthmatic when I was a little kid, and family GPs told me that I told my mum to get me involved in singing or swimming, and it helped my breathing and helped me to breathe properly. And my granddad was a 6'4" skinny Welsh baritone with his booming voice, and he was involved in that choir, and so bang, I'm in the choir.
There's some history there. There's a lineage there of strong vocalists in the family then.
I don't know. I'm adopted, so
okay.
So I think it's more environment than genetic.
Sure.
You know, which is another totally different discussion.
Yeah, absolutely. Whilst I've got you on the line, and before you go, I have to tell you, and it's just my opinion, but I know it is one shared by many of us. Tracks like October Grain, Helping Hand, and Better, you know, they're up there with any of those iconic Angels, Cold Chisel, and AC/DC tunes. And I think that's a fact, Paul. You know, I mean, as time will go on and has proven, some of those tracks are just, they've become iconic. So, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you very much. You know, I didn't write better. Grant wrote better, but I'm sure he feels the same way. You know, mate, it's humbling, it's unreal, and it's humbling to a point where you almost get teary sometimes when you're playing, and then everyone's just singing the words you wrote at you with all their freaking gusto they can muster, you know.
It's like, powerful, isn't it?
Oh,
it is
mate,
powerful.
it's like, it just makes me go, oh, wow, you know. It's not I don't think there is a bigger compliment.
What did I'm just drifting here with some random questions, but I saw Jimmy Hocking when he had a band called Spectre 7 many years back, and Josie Jason was in the band, and we plan on doing a tribute for Josie Jason sometime this year. But when I first saw him live with the band, he seemed to fit in so well. And besides experience, what did Jimmy bring to the band when he joined?
Jimmy, like a great vibe. He's just such a he's just an upbeat guy, you know, like
so just into it.
He's like he's a walking pool of optimism, you know, without being like saying anything, you know. He's got a great vibe, and he's also he comes from a different sort of aspect of sort of rock, you know, like he's a really, when he wants to be, he's a really flash player. He's not where I think the Jets are a bit more grunters, you know what I mean? Like where Jimmy's a bit more slick.
But his style fitted in so well.
Yeah, definitely.
It really did. And
that's what I mean. It worked really well. It's like
it's a great match.
Yeah, and so he's just become a dad.
Oh, congratulations! Lots of sleepless nights. And
yeah, he's just become a dad for the first time. So
great.
He couldn't. We did a gig down at Lake Tyers in Victoria a week or two ago, and we had got Izzy. Izzy came back to the band to play, just because.
Fantastic.
Because it's great. So
just a feeling. So, but he's back on board. You're playing at the at Roselle at the Bridge tomorrow night, aren't you? Is he back on board for that? Great. Yeah,
Jim's doing one show, and then Izzy's doing another show. So it's great that these two amazing guitar players can play with the band, and there's no animosity, there's no ego, there's no one-up, no one's trying to steal anybody's gig. It's awesome.
That's the way it should be, though, isn't it? You know,
if I could work it so I could have three guitar players between Jim, well, you know, of Maiden style, Jim, Izzy, and Scotty, it'd just be massive. I'd never hear me bass.
Actually, I was in London in 1991. I know that I missed your Marquee show by a couple of days. That Marquee show, what are your memories of that, playing that legendary venue?
Just that. It was just like, wow, how legendary is this? We're a bunch of buggers from Newcastle.
Yep.
We're now standing on the stage, the Marquee. We're about to play the Marquee in London tonight. Check us out, you know. I
regret not seeing that, but I did see. I have got some mates who are clued in, and they just said those shows were, you know, amazing stuff. But
yeah, they're awesome nights with just the big crowds, full houses at the Marquee, and just smashed it. You know, so you don't and people were into it, and some people knew the songs, and it's like, how do you guys know about us?
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's amazing. It's amazing. But Dave Holland from Judas Priest joined for a short while, didn't he, in the UK residency?
Playing drums.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did. He played for probably about 10 shows with us.
Okay.
Well, we were.
How did that work out?
Well, he got us through those shows. He's a good bloke. He wasn't totally suited to he didn't musically he was, yeah, but he was a different sort of he wasn't totally suited to the band, but he did what he had to do, which was do a fill-in gig so he could finish the tour.
I also remember seeing you play bass with Thorpe in, I don't know, 2002 maybe, at the Yellow Woolshed in Wollongong.
Oh, yeah.
You got any memories of that? You got any memories of that time with Thorpe?
Yeah, it was like probably did 3 weeks with Thorpe. Because Dario, his usual bass player, who's an awesome player, was in the States filling in for Gary Beers from In Excess, I think, and so I picked up. I was like the Dave Holland of that. It's like it was
quite an honour. That it must be quite an honour when somebody like Billy Thorpe, you get the call up.
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised, and it was great to play with. It was a great band. It was him. It had Di, who's in the Tats as well, because I'm playing bass and Rose Tattoo as well.
Currently, or?
Yeah. I did last year. I did a run of shows with them, and I'm not sort of. I don't know what Angry's doing, the occasional spot show here and there at the moment, like with different things, but when the Tats tour again, apparently I'm the guy that's going to be out playing bass with them. So
fantastic.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. I mean,
You got a favourite couple of Tats songs to play live? What are the ones which?
Oh, they're all good. Lifetime,
good.
Outlaw. It's just such a tough band. Playing with them, I'm just playing. The gigs I've been doing, I'm just sitting there listening to it, just going, how tough is this? It's great.
Yeah, it's phenomenal, isn't it? It really is, and that's just it's stood the test in time. It actually sounds better. Some of those tracks sound better as time goes on, and actually, must be an honour to play in the Tats.
Yeah, I do feel honoured to, and very lucky to be given the opportunity to do that. So, it's like.
Did you see them when they had Ian Ryland back in the band? They did a string of dates, '98 with the Angels. Did you happen to catch? Because I thought he added a real amount of grunt during those shows. Yeah,
Ian had more swagger than a swagger machine. If you know what I mean.
Absolutely.
But with him and Coxie, when they were both alive and in the band, it had this big set of balls swing going on about it.
It did go up a gear. So no recording with Thorpe, just a run of dates back then.
Yeah, just did a run of dates, and basically I was just a fill-in guy, But it was a great experience, and looks good on the CV,
Absolutely.
And it was it's just a good part of my musical learning curve, really.
Agreed. What's in the pipeline for the rest of 2015? You mentioned the new Screaming Jets album due this year, or recording one.
Yeah, we plan to record. Hopefully, if it all goes well. Because Dave and I are not the best organisers. We talk it up.
Talk the talk.
Yeah. But then it comes to it's like, oh shit, we didn't do that. Oh, we haven't. Yeah, but no, the plan is to around the end of March, go in, record a new Jets record, and then get that out as soon as possible after that, and then tour it. I'll do another acoustic record, Because Bombido took me 12 hours to record, so I reckon I can smash another one out.
That.
Smash another one out, and so I'll record that, another acoustic record, and tour that on the back of a Jets after the Jets run.
So how much material have you got in the vaults then? If you're talking about another solo album.
Well, I've got probably 25, 30 tracks that are worth that I've thrown at the band, you know, and then on top of that, probably another 15 or so that are definitely like suited just to sort of me. But with the Jets, like I'd like to record, we'll probably record 15 to 20 songs and then cull it down to 10 or 11.
Yep.
You know, and then that leaves me what's left to just soften through and see what I think. You know, so I've got a reasonably good sized catalogue just sitting there waiting to go.
Yeah. Have you got like one or two, or maybe songs which you just think, wow, I've got to do something with them, like they're the first two you're going to reach for when you record the new album, or that's your solo album?
I'm a solo record. Yeah, I've got probably two that I think that I've written, or I've totally written with just me in mind, because sort of when I'm writing in the back of my head, I've sort of got Dave in mind.
Mm-hmm.
You know, with somewhere in the back of my head. It's not like I'm writing for him or anything, but I'm sort of in my sort of subconscious. I know that I'm hoping that, like, you know, that he'll be singing them, you know.
That's understandable, though, working with someone for such a long period of time.
Yeah, because I know his voice, I know his phrases, I know his range, and I sort of Dave's a great collaborator. I like to work with. I think he's for want of a better description, Australia's Rod Stewart in a way. I love him. He's such a great interpreter of material. And you look like a singer like Rod Stewart, you know.
Just can handle so many different styles.
Yeah, that's it. He's a great interpreter of his own and other people's material, like and makes it.
Well, I think that when Shivers came out, it surprised a lot of people that his vocal on that track.
Oh, it's yeah, that's exactly right. It's so sincere. It's so believable. If you didn't know that it was a cover, you'd think that Cluso wrote it.
Yeah, made it his own.
Yeah.
Paul, it's been great catching up with you today. The album is called Bombido. You can hear all the tunes on Spotify and get it on iTunes. I encourage everyone who digs the Screaming Jets and indeed cool rock and roll to grab a copy of the album. You really won't regret it. And let's close out the interview with a couple of songs. And the choice is all yours, mate. What would you choose?
Maybe give Last Dream for Last Dream Falls track. It's a mellow track, and I don't know. What do you think?
What about a Tat song? What about a Wellesley song?
Yeah, play a Tat song. Any Tat song would be great. I love them.
What about Suicide City?
Oh, you're on. Or Tramp.
Even better. Let's play Tramp.
Tramp makes me want to. When I was learning, when I had to learn these tracks to play with Tats, I was going through it and I rang up angry after I'd worked out Tramp, and I said, "Mate, this song just makes me want to go out and break and steal shit."
Well, my brother and I, we're gonna make an effort to see you live with the Tats this year. Let's keep in touch, and as I said, this podcast is we want to make it the home for pure Australian rock and roll, and we look forward to having you on the show as often as you want. Whenever you got material out, let's do it and do it well. But
sure,
thanks
mate.
for your time today, mate.
Okay, thank you. Have a good day.
Cheers, mate. Bye bye.
Bye bye.